right, as we have people joining, it's just now 3 o'clock. And what I'll do to get us started is just say a little bit of welcome here. I know we have a good group joining us. So thank you again. This is our fourth in a series of webinars for small business, navigating the impacts of COVID-19. I'm Barbara Coffey, Director of Economic Initiatives for the City of Tucson. We're going to spend the majority of our time this afternoon hearing from our guest speaker, and then we'll certainly have time for some general question and answers with all of you to round out our hour. So again, feel free to enter your questions in the chat box or the Q&A. We'll get to as many of those as possible in our time together. And since we have a large group gathered, just ask everyone to stay muted, and we will be recording this session, and we're going to make it available for everyone tomorrow. We usually get those up on our website by midday tomorrow, so you'll have a chance to review, or if you miss a piece, go back to it or share it with others, because I know this has been a great resource. We have also past webinars that we've recorded, and you'll find those as well on the city's YouTube channel. So let's see, let's get going. I have an amazing guest for you today, a good friend and a great colleague of mine, Anatolio Ubaldi. He is an entrepreneur and economic developer, so see, the best of both worlds. He is CEO of Size Up, a small business assistance software used by economic development organizations all over the country, including ours. Very excited to say. We actually launched our website earlier this year and included the Size Up component. So we're going to share more about that. But Anatolio is also co-founder of GIS Planning, Inc., an economic development internet company acquired by the Financial Times Group in 2016. His work has been featured in the Wall Street Journal, Forbes, Bloomberg, Businessweek, Inc., Fortune, Entrepreneur, MSNBC, and the New York Times. He also speaks around the world on the topics of economic development and financial technology. He is author of 2 books and a variety of publications on economic development. Anatolio has a master's degree in city planning from the University of California at Berkeley. And see, we won't hold either of those things against you, the planning piece or the University of California. Here, I know, home of the Wildcats here, University of Arizona in Tucson. But welcome, Anatolio. I'm so glad that you can join us today. And I know you bring a perspective nationally, having worked with so many economic development organizations across the country and the globe for that matter. So I thought maybe just start by sharing what you have been seeing during this pandemic as small businesses work to navigate through it. It is certainly challenging times. Anatolio?
Yes, thank you so much. I just want to first confirm you are hearing me speak and you're seeing the screen move. Is that correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay, perfect. So thank you so much for hosting this webinar for all of the terrific companies and entrepreneurs in Tucson, and thank you everybody for attending. Obviously, these are very challenging times as we think about all the things that are happening. Obviously, the first thing is our thoughts and concerns are with the issues of saving lives. That's always what comes first. But the coronavirus is also having a pretty devastating impact on the economy. And specifically, it's having a big impact on local and small businesses and entrepreneurs. And so I'm going to be talking today about some examples of some things that small businesses are doing, but I'm going to certainly spend a more specific amount of time and substantial amount of time on the Size Up tool that Tucson has, so you can see how you can use that, whether you're a local business or you're thinking about opening up a business. So we're certainly in a situation in which we really need to find solutions, and those are some of the things that I really want to share. And it doesn't matter what industry we're in. All of us are in this together, and we're all trying to find solutions. And I think that we can learn from what other businesses, in some cases what other communities are doing, and also from your neighbors to figure out what may be the way to help your business through these challenging times. So what we certainly know is that there are a lot of people who are in very precarious situations, people and businesses. Over 74% of US employees would experience difficulty meeting their current financial obligations if their paychecks were delayed for a week. 28% of US adults have no emergency savings. 48% have less than 5,000 in cash bank accounts and investments. 44% need to go into work in order to be paid. And 1 out of 5 US households had already experienced a layoff or reduction of work hours due to coronavirus, and that was almost 1 month ago. So we've got to figure that those numbers are even more challenging now in April. So as challenging as the situation is, there are solutions to help mitigate the negative economic impact. And these do exist, and they are things where we can take action today to solve this. So I wanted to share some examples of how this can go. So if you are, and I'm assuming that most of the people, and wow, I'm seeing the numbers come in, there's a lot of people on this call. So if you are an existing business, one of the things that you need to think about is how can you transition the work that you're doing to be able to be something else? So as people work remotely, schools close, and people implement social distancing, it's destroying demand, for example, for Uber rides and the income drivers receive to take people around. But people staying home can create new jobs in which these rideshare workers can immediately transition. For example, they can serve emerging market demands, such as becoming delivery people. Right now, grocery delivery drivers are experiencing booming business. Becoming a restaurant delivery driver can help the rideshare worker keep income coming in and also keep local businesses open and employing their workers. As an example, and I'm going to show you this, and you see in the slide, this is a 5-star fine dining caterer in Richmond, California. They were negatively impacted by corporate cancellations. So they reinvented their offering to provide drive-through, farm-to-table artisan pizza and salad. They're also willing to deliver the pizza or rent out their private chefs to people's homes. So this is a case of where you can think about, okay, I make food that's really high end, but maybe that's not what's needed right now. How can we transition? I'll share with you another example. This is one that's coming out of Las Vegas, Nevada. And Kim Bavington, who's the owner of Art Classes for Kids, they do after school lessons and holiday events or summer art camps. Well, she had to cancel all of her weekly classes and her spring break art camps. And she was nervous about her summer art camps because it's not clear what's going to happen this summer. And her summer art camps represent half of all of her income for the whole year. To make matters worse, in Las Vegas, 70% of the economy is driven by gaming and hospitality. So she was anticipating this risky future. And so what she did was she transitioned her face-to-face instruction to online education. And last month, she hosted her first YouTube live art class teaching how to draw Van Gogh's Sunflowers. And the numbers were so good that she decided she was going to put more effort into this because she gets a cut when people click on a link off of her YouTube page. She gets a cut of the sales. Now, here's something else that's interesting is it was about 2 hours of launching her first live YouTube live, she was featured in the local Las Vegas NBC affiliate doing a story about her business. So this is how she made herself relevant in a challenging time. Another thing, and for those of you who are business owners who pay rent, I'm sure that the property owners, they want you to pay, and they want you to pay on time. But I think that this is an important time to have a conversation with them and for them to have a conversation with you, because in the end, what we all want is everybody to survive. We may not be doing as well as pre-coronavirus pandemic, but it's important for your business to stay alive, just as it is for them to have continuing tenants that keep paying them. So it's a good time to have a conversation if you're not able to make rent, to try and work something out with them so that maybe they get something or they get some amount of money at some later period. But think about how you're all in this together, right? This is a situation where you don't want them to go out of business. They don't want you to go out of business. I'll share with you an example. This is one that comes out of Jonesboro, Arkansas. And there are numerous restaurants facing the difficult decision about whether they may need to close their business as a result of the decline in people that were no longer going out to lunch for work or things like that. And Young Investment Company, they're the property owners of a number of the restaurants that are quite popular in the city. And they announced through social media that they would not expect their restaurant tenants to pay rent in April. And instead, what their CEO asked was that the owners pay their employees and take care of your family. We'll get through all of this together. That was a quote from him. And so this idea was sparked by a business that was saying, hey, have you cashed my check? Because I really need that money right now. And so they decided to make a change because, and while you may think, oh, they're so altruistic, but, and while that may be true, also it's just in their own best interest for business, because if that business goes out of business, well, they're going to have to take the time to find a new tenant that may sit empty longer than if they just wait for the next check to come in. So this is really about something that can help everyone. Another issue to think about is just how important local businesses are. Now, this, you can see in this chart, the green is the growth of small businesses and creating jobs, and blue is the ones that come from larger business. And you can see from 1993 to 2015 that small businesses created 425% net new jobs. So when you think about the impact on the local economy, well, it's really coming from small businesses in terms of job growth. And so what I'd like to share with everyone is something that the city of Tucson is providing to all of you. And I'm gonna jump over. Are you now seeing, just wanna make sure you're seeing the website, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. So the city of Tucson has a very strong commitment to local, small, and medium-sized businesses, although this is also a tool for large businesses. But through their website, they're delivering the service so that small businesses and aspiring entrepreneurs can go on at any time, day or night, and be able to access market research and business intelligence that typically was only available to huge corporations. Now, Tucson understands the context. The reality is that because of shelter in place, a lot of the businesses are at home right now, and they're trying to figure out ways so that they can figure out, how do I get back the revenue that I haven't been making over this time? There are certainly some aspiring entrepreneurs who may have a job now, but they're thinking about opening up a business, but they need to figure out how they can plan to open up that business. And there are some people who are going to be forced into entrepreneurship as their jobs have been eliminated due to this pandemic. So I'd like to share with you some of the tools that you can use from the safety of your home to be able to get information about your business. So I'm going to show you an example. Again, we are at connecttucson.com, and from connecttucson.com, you can go directly to grow your business and size up insight tools. And so I'll show you the 4 different tools. So let's say we're a coffee shop in Tucson. We'll enter in some information we would know about our business off the top of our head. So let's say that we make about $500,000 a year. What happens is that SizeUp just super crunch millions of data points from the local to the national level to be able to compare your business versus other businesses. Sorry, slight glitch. Start again. There we go. the experience of live demo.
Yes.
We'll try one more time.
That's
All
awesome.
right.
No, we're just excited to be able to have you walk us through this because it is a brand new tool, and
Right.
we are hoping that that people do get an understanding of how to utilize it. I think it's going to be a great resource.
All right. Sorry, I was playing with this a little bit too much. Okay, so here it is. We have the revenue in there, right? So what SizeUp did was it super crunched millions of data points from the local to the national level to be able to compare this coffee shop to other coffee shops. You can see at 500,000, this coffee shop is making less than the typical coffee shop in Tucson, which is about 583,000. Also less than in Pima County, the metro Tucson area, the state, and the nation. Down below is a heat map. In this heat map, you'll see the areas in red are the neighborhoods. So this is hyper local. And again, I want to make sure everybody understands this is specific to coffee shops, not generic food and beverage. So you can see these are the neighborhoods in red where coffee shops are making the most money, and yellow is where they're making less. Now this is useful if you're thinking about opening up another coffee shop, or perhaps you want to target a marketing campaign, or maybe you want to, in the future or now online, check out these coffee shops to see what it is that they're doing to be so successful. Or the year started, let's say we started in 2012. What SizeUp did was it just plotted the openings of every single coffee shop in the entire country. You can see the line is mostly moving up. You can see this is the last recession. We should anticipate coming out of this recession, there's going to be another decline. But if I'm not interested in the national or even the Arizona data, I can still see in general in the Tucson metro that there has been growth over time. And this is a good sign that Tucson is a robust economy. Or salary. How much am I paying my typical employees? Now, coffee shops oftentimes have a lot of part-time employees. So I'm going to plug it in at 15,000. And here we can see what is most common is about 13,000 a year. And you can see that the cost of salaries in Tucson are less than they are in the Phoenix area. So more affordable for Tucson businesses. Or number of employees. Let's say that we have 14 employees. I think we would all agree that 14 employees is a small business, but it's not a small coffee shop. So when you actually look at the data, you see the typical coffee shop in Tucson is about 13. So this is on the higher end of size. This can be useful to you if you're going to the bank and you're trying to make the case, hey, we're bigger, we're a higher performing business. But they say, well, but you're small. Well, no, as a coffee shop though, I'm actually pretty big. There's also other information. And what SizeUp does is it starts triangulating data. So based on the information that you provide, it can tell you in this case that the cost effectiveness or the productivity of this business. In this case, this business isn't making a lot of money. The salaries are a little bit high and it has quite a few people. So it's slightly underperforming. We can also slice and dice the data lots of different ways. So in this case, we're looking at revenue per capita. And as I mentioned, this is hyper local. This is down to the neighborhood because different parts of Tucson are different also. But I can see even, this is at the neighborhood level. As I move out, I can see the counties. I can even see all the data nationally. So if you're a business that is exporting or you're doing things nationally, then you can get data throughout the country. Or here's local turnover. So let's say that you are the owner of this coffee shop and you're so concerned because you're having to replace 10% of your employees every year and you're not sure why it is. Do you not pay enough? Is it something related to the management? You're not sure. But actually, you don't have a problem. You're doing great because what is most typical is coffee shops have to replace 17% of their employees every year. There's other variables. I'm not going to get into all of them, but I will click on Summary View. And now let's take a look This is a dashboard of our business's health. You can see here the revenue, all of these different key performance indicators. These are the numbers for your business. And you don't have to be an MBA or have a background in quantitative analytics to understand red is less and green is more. This is designed for any type of business in Tucson. You can use this. It's as simple as what I just showed you. And for those of you who are more math inclined, you can also hover over the gauges and see that you're in the 45th percentile. So this is the first tool of Size Up. I'm going to show you another one, which is focused around finding customers and better understanding the competitive situation. So I'm going to change this. If you're a business, once you've entered in what industry you're in, you don't need to change anything. But just so that the many people who are on this webinar can see that there are variations, let's say that we are a roofer. All right. So now I can see all of the businesses in the area that do something related to roofing. Well, I also want to find customers. So in my case, I'm going to search for home builders because those are the customers that I want to have. And now I can see these are all home builders that are in the Tucson area, and I can click on them and I can find out information about them, such as their phone number, or for example, this Mariposa Homes. I can then visit their website to learn more about their business. So when I make a call to them to try and sell to them, I'm more educated about their business. So that I can, so for example, if I see that they primarily do clay, tile, I guess they're called shingles or whatever they are. If I'm the roofer who does that, I can tell them that that's what I have expertise in, so it's a good match. We also need suppliers, and so I'm going to put in hardware. And now you can see all of the hardware stores where I can get my roofing supplies in the area. And another important thing to think about as you are buying and doing business locally is this helps your local economy. Doing business locally improves, it's called the economic multiplier, but just think about it, that the money that you are spending stays more in your community. Now, not all businesses are business-to-business sales. Some do business with consumers directly, and you can overlay information. So in this case, we could look at shelter, and if I was focusing on the places where property taxes on a primary dwelling are higher, because I think this is an area where people may be more willing to spend on new roofs, well, I can see that these are some of the areas with the highest amount. But it could be anything. I'm going to just reset this. If I'm a women's apparel business, I can overlay women's apparel spending, and now I see where the most spending is. So this is the second feature. The third feature helps optimize advertising. And I'll change again. So we're not looking at roofing this time. Let's look at dentists. So knowing just these two things, I can now see where it is that dentists are making the most money. It seems to be in the area a little bit more in the northern part of the city and a little bit farther in the northeast. But maybe what I'm most interested in is not where dentists are making the most money, but what are the most underserved markets. So if I click here on most underserved markets, now it's telling a new story, because relative to the people that are there, they are not as well served by dentists in terms of the spending. So these South Tucson, or this area by the airport, or a little bit farther to the east, and out here to the northeast of the Catalina foothills, these are opportunities for me. Now, every business is different. If I'm going to get that cup of coffee, I'm probably not willing to go very far, but for the right dentist or the right manufacturer of something that I'm buying, or whatever the situation, I may have a larger market area, and I can adjust that. And by the way, this allows you to market even outside of Tucson. So even because of the whole metro area, this can be part of the market. So if I wanted to target places that have higher household income, or maybe I want to, I know that my typical customer has higher levels of education, or for my dentistry, maybe I'm targeting younger households. So I do more children's dentistry. So I can put all of these filters in, and in the end, what I get is exactly these are the places that match what my needs are. So you, instead of trying to do mass marketing, which just doesn't work anymore today, you can target it, and you can take these areas, you can plug them into, it doesn't matter. You can, if you decide you want to do a mailing, or you want to do online marketing on Facebook or Google AdWords, you can just take this information and plug it in. The final feature I want to show you is related to demographics. And you can make your business the center of the universe. This is designed for your business. So in this case, I'm going to plug in, Barbara, what's the address of City Hall?
255 West Alameda.
5 West Alameda. All right. So today, the center of the universe is going to be City Hall. But you could plug in your address for whatever business you are. And you say, okay, I want to know within 10 miles of City Hall, what are the characteristics of that area? And now I can see some of those things. So I can turn on, actually, I'm having a little bit of tricky time, but I can show you also, if you're trying to look at this information for a region, you can create your own region of whatever you believe your trade area is, and you can create that. And you can get that for consumer expenditures, right? So as I showed you before, if we wanted to see, right, women's apparel, now I know exactly what's going on there. Or labor force. All this information is there. I'm not going to spend too much time on it because you've seen it. But this is a tool that is designed to really help your business be successful, and it's all customized to your business. So I'll close that out, and we'll go back to some additional ideas about what the businesses can do.
So Anatolio, there's a question from the chat room on the revenue heat map there. Does the revenue decrease the more saturated the area is? So for example, she asked, if one part of town is yellow, how do you know if it's yellow because the demographic of the area doesn't like coffee shops versus that area is already saturated with coffee shops?
It's a great question. So in the example, let me just go back. So to this one, this is showing average revenue. It's not showing total revenue. But if you want to look at what total revenue is, you can look down here. This shows total revenue. So you could have a situation where there's one business that's doing a lot, and so it could make the total larger, but you have to sift through the data a little bit. So in this case, I don't know what variable we're using. This is for dentists, right? So in this case, this is showing average for a dentist. So you see a bit more toward the southern part of Tucson. And whereas here, you can see total, it's actually a little bit more toward the north. So this is how you discover using data to surprise yourself about these findings, so that you, as a business, you make a data-driven decision to seize these opportunities. Mm-hmm. Alternatively, you can also look at this as revenue per capita. So you see, even though this tends to be a stronger areas for revenue per capita and total, you see total is a little bit stronger in some of these other areas.
I love it. I think it's fantastic that we have, with this tool, the ability to, again, compare yourself even so that you can make the best decisions. I love the recruiting example when we're looking at hiring up, for example, and you can compare wages and what other people are are paying. You can figure out where you want to be. Do you want to be at 75%? Do you want to be at 120% when it comes to wages? So I like that there's a lot of different ways to look at this.
Right. And even if you're paying a higher wage, that isn't necessarily a bad thing, as long as you're getting the productivity that's coming out of that, right? It's not bad to spend more if you get more. The idea here is how do we empower small and medium-sized businesses to make data-driven decisions in the way that all huge corporations are? And it's quite unfair because small businesses have not had the access to this type of information and had it delivered to them in a way that they can actually use. And that's something that the city of Tucson is addressing by giving them tools so they can make these smarter decisions based on data.
So given that we're in the middle too of this pandemic, I mean, it's really interesting because I would imagine that the business data is going to change dramatically, right? From maybe even what we're showing today, and then maybe 3 to 4 weeks from now, it may look completely different. So I think the tool is even going to be more valuable as we come through this crisis that we're in right now as well.
That's right. And also if you're a Tucson business and you're trying to figure out how you compare to other businesses, you need to keep coming back to the tool every few months so you can see, because if other businesses start doing really well, maybe you're in the 45th percentile and now you've gone down to the 42nd, or maybe you start doing better and you move into the 67th percentile. So this is a tool that you don't use once, you keep coming back to find out how you're doing.
So one more question came up, Anatolio. Eileen is asking, where does the data come from? How often is it updated?
Okay, so the data comes from a variety of different data sources. It's hundreds of data sources, but it includes things like county courthouse filings, IRS records. It's data. You would be shocked at how many different ways that data is triangulated. This is not data, though, just to be clear, this is not data that comes from the city of Tucson. This is data that comes from national data sets that we gather and that we put in so that you can see information everywhere. So it's a variety of public and private data sources. And how often it's updated, a huge chunk of the data is updated each fiscal quarter. So what you see today will be different in 3 months. Okay. Some of the other data, some of the demographic data is updated 1 to 2 times a year.
Great, thanks.
Sure. All right, so let's talk about some other ways that small businesses can respond. And certainly now is a great time to promote your own business. And I'd like to share with you an example of how some other communities are doing this. And this one comes from a suburb outside of Detroit. And what they're doing is they're doing social distancing bingo. So if there is a neighborhood or a commercial corridor in Tucson and you all can get together, this could be a way that you can promote. Now, the idea is that there are rules. So there's rules like you have to stay 6 feet apart, and there can never be more than 5 people in a business, and that you have to wash your hands after every transaction. So this is a good way that people stay healthy, but business is still happening. So they put on a variety of different examples of things that you can check off. And then if you get bingo, then the first 10 winners get a $50 gift certificate. So if you are a neighborhood association or you're a commercial corridor, this could be a great way to get people in your area, and you're working together so that all the businesses in your area can succeed.
That's awesome.
Thanks. So other things in terms of the federal policies, probably some of you have already applied for paycheck assistance. These are things that you can get through your bank. Obviously, everybody wants to know what is going to be the rules and how quickly can people get the SBA loans for the disaster loans. And so keep your eye out for this. What I think all of us who care about small businesses are hopeful is that this help gets there, it's not good when the ambulance gets there after the patient is dead. So this is a situation where we need federal assistance to help our small businesses. Another thing that you all must recognize is that the trend is toward e-commerce. And it's not just an issue of you promoting your business online, but actually creating ways so that there are transactions. So if you don't have a website right now, you know the pain that you're experiencing. But you've got to take it to the next step, which is to be able to make it possible for businesses to do transactions. So, and by the way, you don't have to use your own infrastructure. You can use other online ways of doing e-commerce or doing online orders. For example, if you are a restaurant, but it's not just restaurants in terms of delivery. There's all sorts of different ways that you can have people order, any of your customers order, and somebody else will fulfill. So whether it be DoorDash or any of these different types of businesses. So now is the time to get online. Another thing to consider is if you are in manufacturing of any type, can the manufacturing that you're doing be used in a way of where there is either high demand or there is a good that is desperately needed to help us out of the bad situation that we're in. And I want to share with you an example. So a lot of people know Los Angeles is kind of a high fashion place. Well, there's a fashion designer there, Puy Quinones, whose clothing is part of the permanent collection of the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, alongside the creations of Christian Dior, Cristobal Balenciaga, Alexander McQueen. And what he decided to do was, instead of making high fashion, was to start manufacturing personal protective equipment needed to combat the coronavirus. So he talked about how he was, a friend messaged him asking him if he knew someone that can make hazmat suits. And he said, hey, I think I can do it. So again, this guy makes stuff that is on some of the top runways in the world. And what he's done is he's transitioned. So they're taking fabric, they're taking what they have, and they're turning into stuff that really helps. So this is his design for, these are called the personal protective equipment, or PPE. So he had this design, and within a matter of weeks, or actually, I'm sorry, days, they were manufacturing it. And while it's fancy, it's also quite functional. Another thing that you may want to consider is how do you protect your employees? Maybe your business simply can't, you just can't keep all of your employees employed and paying them. So can you loan your business or loan your employees to another business temporarily? This is an example that comes from Germany, where the McDonald's just couldn't stay open. They didn't need that many employees, but the grocery stores were just desperate for employees. So these two businesses had an agreement where they said, look, during this time, you can go work at this grocery store if you want to work. But when this is over, we're saving your job for you at McDonald's. So think about, if you're in that situation, could you loan your employees out and make sure you loan them to a business that's going to return them to you? All right. Another thing is can you kind of temporarily swap what it is that you're doing? This is an example that comes from San Francisco, where I am. And this guy was about to open up his restaurant. And his model was to have communal big tables where strangers sat next to each other and ate. Well, guess what isn't a popular idea today? Anything that has to do with that. But what he realizes is that people need basics. So he turned his restaurant into a grocery store that had the staples. And not only just the staples of restaurants, it was all sorts of things like cleaning supplies, because as a restaurant, you have access to cleaning supplies and all the types of things, disinfect, all these things that people want. So they made that transition. And this is where and I hope I'm not putting you on the spot, Barbara, but this is where the city of Tucson can come in and say, hey, temporarily, we understand that you can't operate as a restaurant, but we, the city, will be flexible in helping you transition as long as you're making sure that there's hygiene available.
Well, you'll be glad to know our mayor and council, we've issued that opportunity. So restaurants, now you're seeing restaurants able to provide grocery market items. And so we are absolutely enabling those adaptive opportunities.
That's great. So good to hear. I think being progressive as a city right now and really thinking about how you can it's not just innovate, but improvise, frankly. We all have to improvise right now in terms of what can work and what can keep our economy going as best as it can. Another thing that I think is important as a business owner and as you're having conversations with your employees is this is a rough time. Look, there are a lot of businesses that are really in peril right now. And so are a lot of employees. We talked about it earlier about how a lot of people don't have savings. And being a friend to people, really showing your compassion for their situation is an important characteristic of leadership that really needs to be present. Also, we need to recognize that there is a transition where we cannot be physically close to each other. But I don't want us to get confused about that. I know the term social distancing is popular right now, but what we really want is physical distancing. We need to not be physically next to each other because that is the safe thing to do. But socially, I think we really need to connect with each other. It's super important because people are feeling isolated. And many of your businesses are businesses that operate based on the relationships that you have. Now is not the time to pull back from relationship building. You just need to use different tools to do it, whether it be social media, whether it be what so many people are using now, which is Zoom and other online means, or if you're doing it on your phone, you can FaceTime people. Whatever the method is, continue to keep these relationships going with your customers, with your suppliers, with your employees. This just needs to continue to happen. And understand, what can we learn from all of the things that are happening now? Well, one thing is how can we be more resilient in the long term? Because I certainly don't want to be pessimistic, but I think we must be practical that the issues of disaster happen. They happen as hurricanes, they happen as disease, they happen as fire. And so how can we use these and understand that these things may happen, and there may be other times when we have to have physical distancing to make our businesses more resilient. So the good news is, even during economic downturns, businesses, great, huge, successful businesses get created. Coming out of 2008 and 2009, Airbnb and Twilio, and I mean, there's just so many businesses, and your business could be one of these businesses to come out of this in good shape, or you're creating the idea that as we come out of this, that you'll be able to emerge successfully. So the city of Tucson is here to help. I know you need their help, and obviously look at, you've got the top economic developer right here for you right now. So people are here to help you. There is a helping hand, and it's important for you to realize that you are not alone. There are resources. The city is committed to you. They're providing you resources, including the ones that I just shared online. So with that, Barbara, I'll turn it back over to you, and I'm happy to answer any questions, or maybe this can also be a time where they have questions for the city and you can answer them.
Fantastic. No, thank you very much. I love your comments and your ideas that you shared from scenarios and situations that people are facing all across the country. I think that's the other piece about realizing that we are not just doing this, here in Tucson, that this thing, right, that's happening, this COVID-19 is impacting businesses all over the country, all over the world, and it helps to see how others are responding to it. So I do love that. As a matter of fact, I had your thought about empathy reminded me of a message I read this morning from Tammy Carr with Mortensen Construction. She was writing a message inside one of the ULI chapter newsletters, and I happened to read through it, which I don't often have the time to do, but I did today. And what struck me was that she had made a comment about allowing people time to feel. Take time to feel, like in the midst of this crisis, and we're so used to doing, that stopping for a moment and realizing it's okay to feel overwhelmed. It's okay to wonder about how your employees are doing. It's okay to wonder about your own families, right, in the middle of all this. So I just thought that was similar advice, and I really appreciate that. There was a question here from JJ about contact information. Does Connect Tucson provide contact information, emails, and websites for any business, any community in the Tucson region? I'm thinking that he's asking based on the platform through Size Up. You showed that it certainly populates some information. Can you share about that?
That's right. So if you go into the competitor tool, you can find not only competitors, but you can find potential customers. You can find potential suppliers. They're all in there. So you can search. Tucson has a more advanced system, so you can search by name. You can search by industry. You can search by multiple industries. Just type it in, and you're very likely to find it.
Fantastic. So here's a question. What can state legislative policymakers do to help stimulate the economy?
All right, who wants to take that one? I think you know what's happening more at the local level than I do. I'm in California.
You're right. Well, I think that it speaks to the fact that we want our legislators to understand what business is going through, right? And so I think what I would answer to that is that you have a mayor and council that is absolutely being proactive in their communications with our governor, with our state legislators, all of our federal delegation, and we're lobbying for our community's best interests, and that includes our business community. And so I think that's one piece of it. And I think just again to be engaged and to be informed and to participate in your own way as well by sharing what you feel with your legislators. So that's my answer.
Yeah.
And there's another question.
Let me speak about that just a little bit from
Sure.
kind of some of the things that I'm seeing nationally. And so I think what you're saying is spot on, Barbara, which is that the people who are the entrepreneurs, the businesses in Tucson, you really do need to reach out to your legislators to make sure that they know that you are, it has to be top of mind for them, right? And who's at risk? It is small businesses who are more at risk. A lot of big businesses, like they have people who plan for disasters and they make sure that they have the resources to be able to stay in business. But small and medium-sized businesses tend to be not as well capitalized to survive. And it is very real that, can businesses survive 2 weeks? Yes. Can they survive a month? Maybe. Then you start talking farther and farther amounts of time, and it's less likely that businesses can stay in business. So this is as people keep saying, this is unprecedented. Mm-hmm. So the types of response also needs to be just as powerful. Small businesses need money, and they need money put in their pocket. And there's a variety of different ways. Some of it can come from the local community. So I think that if you are a consumer right now and you want your local businesses to stay in business, now's a good time to buy a gift card or
Mm-hmm.
10 or 100. And also, if you can afford, if you have the resources to tip a little bit more, people need it.
Right.
However, that's just part of the equation. The other part is that state and federal resources need to come to the aid to make sure, because it is so much easier to keep a business alive than to try to have to either create a new one or bring one back from near death.
Mm-hmm.
So pressuring legislators to get resources to you immediately matters.
That's fantastic, and absolutely locally, what you're seeing here on the idea of the gift cards, we've had a fantastic program that Downtown Tucson Partnership launched with their approximate 50 merchants. They infused $35,000 into those businesses. In the first week, they offered a gift card sale. They offered an additional $10 for every $25 card sold, and they did 1,000 cards on the first round and sold out in 24 hours. And they did the second round with the help of support by Rio Nuevo and offered that same program, sold out. It is so another $35,000 infusion. I got my cards. I mean, it's amazing. I think what we're going to try to see is that we continue that program. So that's just one organization taking care of its area in that manner. But that's how creative everyone is having to be, and that's how willing our community is to step up. So here's another question. Is it more beneficial, and this is regarding the Size Up tool, if you keep the sections broad, for example, retail or restaurant, rather than local business or Mexican food? I guess when you're searching using the Size Up tool, I guess how granular should you go? Or I saw you did coffee shop, and that was I think probably the right amount. But if you were to do restaurant, would you do Mexican restaurant? Would you do what are your thoughts about utilizing the tool?
So the beauty of it is it can be as broad or as specific as your business needs it to be. So some businesses will want things to be more broad. Others will want it to be more specific, but you can type in and you can add industries. So I don't know, maybe your business does burgers and pizza. So in your case, then you should enter both burger businesses and pizza businesses. Or if you are you're an orthodontist, but you also want to make sure you get dentistry in there. So it's fine. It's designed for whatever you need.
And then the question is the tool available in other languages other than English? How do you respond to that?
It is currently only available in English. It is part of our work plan to make it available in other languages. However, there's not a timeline for that at the moment.
Okay. And for my knowledge, when does it translate when we use a translator function on the website or not?
Yeah, so you can use tools like Google Translate, although it just has whatever is the level of accuracy that it is. I mean,
which it can be hit or miss sometimes.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. No, that's good. I'm looking to see if there are some other questions here. I'm not seeing anything else that we haven't responded to yet. But if you do have a question, please let me know. You can put your question in the chat or the Q&A section. But we're doing great on time, and we've certainly spent a good 53 minutes together already. I will say for everyone's benefit that there are going to be some opportunities. We're working hard behind the scenes to bring more loan programs to your attention, but we have some great folks locally, great resource partners. You've met some of them on our prior webinars, the Community Investment Corporation, Growth Partners Arizona, our Business Development Finance Corporation. We have some great micro lenders our SBDC partner for all the SBA assistance and loan programs. There are great local banks that I know are busy as they can be working with customers. So there is a queue of people lined up for loans, and I think the loan programs and the portfolio of options is truly remarkable, and there should be a product in there for everyone, given that we have all these options. So I know that that's going to be helpful, and our team will continue to take phone calls on that. So do know that we have our hotline still open. Again, I want to just take a minute again and say thank you, Anatalio, for joining us today, because I think it's been great to have you run us through how the tool works. Since it is new for us, we were fortunate to be able to have launched our website right before all of this change began to happen. So to have it is, I think, it's so very important to us, and it has certainly become a way for us to connect to our business community. So it's doing what we intended it to do, and I think tools like this also make it a value add for our businesses. So I appreciate that. So if I had to ask you, what's some words of wisdom? What are your words that you have to encourage small business? Maybe your mantra, maybe the words to live by. What are they?
Well, I think right now everybody needs to figure out, how do we survive? And I don't think that there's any shame in getting to that really basic level of, I want your businesses to make it, because small businesses is what makes our economy flourish. It's what creates the jobs. So, but it's not enough to have a plan of hope. You really need to take action, and you need to take that action now, whether it be signing up so that you get these the paycheck, participate in the paycheck program, or certainly using tools like what we showed for Size Up, right? So this is a way for you to better understand what's happening. Or if you're thinking about starting a business, plug in the numbers of what you think is going to happen. If you think you're going to make $5 million your first year, and what Size Up shows as well, no, the typical business makes about 500,000, you need to be honest about that and plan for what you're going to do when you emerge from this. Mm-hmm. So take action now, because it can be too late, and I don't want it to be too late for anyone.
Mm-hmm. No, that's great. And I think that's exactly what people can do during this time when they didn't think they would have maybe some extra time to do that strategic planning, that business planning, figure out where you want to go with your business, reinvent some aspects of it, throw out what doesn't work and keep what does, and make it even better. So I appreciate that. And I appreciate the time that you've taken. I know that you have a busy day full of webinars as well. So that's all good. So I'm going to wrap up our time.
Let me just thank you though, Barbara. I just want to thank you so much for your leadership in economic development and your commitment to your local businesses, because it shows through in the programs that you're doing, the education that you're providing. So thank you so much for that.
I appreciate that. It's absolutely what we're supposed to do. So it's what we do, right? So next week, tune in. We're going to have our webinar here again on Monday at 3 p.m. We have Ian Rourke, Vice President of Workforce Development and Strategic Partnerships for Pima Community College. He's going to share some great new programs that Pima College is rolling out to skill up, in particular, the areas of IT and technology, which of course, they're more and more important now more than ever. And maybe you have opportunities for yourself or your employees that have this chance to maybe skill up where you didn't have the time for that before. We'll have some other guests as well, so we'll keep you connected to the resources that you need during this COVID-19 pandemic. Again, reach out directly to me if you need me, or call our entire City of Tucson Economic Initiative Small Business Hotline to find one of us at 520-837-4100. And be sure to go to Connect Tucson, sign up for our newsletter and email updates so you'll get these webinar notices as well. You can scroll to the bottom of the homepage and subscribe. So with that, I appreciate everyone joining us. We had a strong and very engaged group, and I wish you the rest of a great Monday. Thank you all.